And I'm Janelle.
And this is the Murder Mamas.
The Murder Mamas.
Welcome.
Welcome. That wasn't as good as last time.
No, it wasn't.
Anyways, we're going to jump right into it.
Okay.
Today we're talking about Darlie Routier.
Okay.
You familiar?
Yes.
Slightly, right?
I don't know every detail.
So I feel like this is one of like the first true crime things I remember seeing as like a kid. Mm-hmm. I want to say it was like a Forensic Files I watched when I had to have been like, maybe. I don't know, 9?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I was like 19 probably then.
Oh yeah, you're so
like a decade older than you or something. How old are you?
I'm not going to say not on the podcast.
Okay.
No, I'm a 33-year-old lady.
Okay, so I'm 9 years older than you.
No, but so it happened in 1996, but you know, like there's a few years between like it being made, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't know, I just feel like it's the first one I remember and I remember like watching like the reenactment of like someone breaking into the house. And I don't know.
I remember the dancing. That's where.
And the
So
the silly strike.
Yeah. That's what I remember. I mean, that sticks in my head.
Yeah.
Because when you first sent it to me, and I was like, who? And then, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, like, this has been something that I, like, have toyed around with for the greater part of 2 decades.
Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, not that you don't know it.
There's a lot of content on this one, is what you meant.
Yeah.
I am just gonna preface this entire episode by saying I'm not gonna spend a ton of time talking about like the injuries to the kids. Like I don't find that there's value in discussing how many times they were stabbed or like the horrific nature of like what happened to them.
Yeah. That's
been done so many times. I really am going to spend a lot of time talking about like whether or not she actually did it.
Yeah. This is a hard one.
I've consumed a lot of media on both that like highlight both sides, which I find to be pretty interesting. So this is what that's going to be more about. We'll talk a little bit about like what actually happened, but you're not going to hear about like the horrific nature of what happened to the kids. And if that's what you're into, then probably not this one is not for you. I just don't think there's any value in it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they need to know what happened.
Yeah. But like describing the horrific moment, like last moments of their life and like what. Yeah. There's no point.
Yeah.
You can find that information. It is readily available.
It is. There's a shit ton of information.
Like autopsy, all kinds of stuff. So, anyways, with that, we're just going to jump in. So briefly, to a high-level overview of like the actual incidents themselves is June. I feel like I said that word weird. It sounded like I said Dune. June 6th. 1996, and Darlie Routier lived in a very affluent area in the Dallas area of Texas. It's called
Rowlett.
That's it.
I used to live in the Dallas suburbs of Texas, so I'm familiar.
They lived in like a nice big house. They had, a pretty nice lifestyle. Yeah. She lived in the home with her husband, Darren, her sons, Damon, Devin's the oldest, then Damon, and then 7 or 8 month old baby Drake. And they were 5 and 6. And as I was like looking at everything now, I'm like, that's like my kid. Yeah. Like it really,
yeah, that's rough.
This is a tough one. So on the night of June 6th, Darlie, Devin, and Damon, so many D's, they slept downstairs in the house because she was tired and didn't want to sleep in her master bedroom where Drake slept in like a crib next to their bed. Because she wanted to get more sound sleep. And she was like such a light sleeper, is what she said.
Right.
That being next to the baby would wake her up. Which, like, I get.
Yeah.
So they all slept downstairs in the living room. And shortly before 3 a.m., Darlie calls the police. And you can listen to the entire audio of this police call. She is frantic, yelling, like pleading with them to send help. She's saying over and over again, like, I almost wish I could like play it, but I'm not going to. She continuously says like something, a man came in and I chased him out of the house. And then she also mentions on this call, like, I touched the knife and there won't be fingerprints anymore, which...
Yeah. So if you listen to the call, like, if it had stopped before she said that, I would think that's a mom in distress right there. Like, she's freaking the fuck out, as she should.
Yeah, like, my baby is dead.
Yeah, like she's acting normal. How I would,
how you would think there an appropriate response for the level of trauma someone just went through.
But then after that statement, you're like, huh.
It was like this weird, for me, I was like, interesting thing to mention.
Right.
Like,
especially during that time.
Specifically, like, I already touched it. And now you won't be able to get fingerprints?
Yeah.
Okay. So the police arrive fairly quickly. The first officer on the scene, I read through his entire testimony, all 100 pages of it. He was waiting. You know, he was like just parked in a church parking lot that was like 1.6 miles away from their house.
Okay.
So it took him almost no time to get there. And he was the first one on the scene even before the paramedics got there. And when he got there, Darren was outside of the house. And so the cop is like, who are you?
Right.
And he's like, I'm Darren. What are you doing out here? And he's like, there's a nurse that lives across the street. So like he was trying to go get someone with medical knowledge to come help. And so Darlie doesn't end the 911 call when the police arrive, which is another thing that causes confusion if you listen to the call, because she's talking to the 911 operator, but the cop is talking to her. And I'm not sure that she's hearing the cop or like focusing on the officer.
I didn't listen to that part.
It's just like, it's very strange. I don't know. I feel like once the police show up, you end the call.
Sure.
But like she stays on the call until like EMS arrives. So like for a very long time.
That's weird.
And like there could be some shock there too. You know, who knows how you would respond.
Yeah.
So he arrives and he tells Darren to start providing medical, like, you know, CPR to Devin. Devin is already passed away. Yeah. He talks about how Damon was still alive and was breathing when he arrived, and that he instructed Darlie multiple times to like put towels on his back to like put pressure on the wounds. And she didn't. She just sort of stood in like a area of the living room and didn't provide any medical care. And when he's on the witness stand, the defense attorney is like, she's not trained to do that. Why didn't you do that?
Right. And
so he was saying because to him, there's still a suspect in this house.
Right.
Because Darlie said there was a suspect in the garage, like, because that's where she chased them out.
Right.
So he doesn't want to, like, he's trying to stay between them and if a suspect comes, essentially. Which I can understand.
But, like, did he say to her?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He said,
go get towels.
Get towels and apply pressure to the wounds.
Okay.
Is what he said.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard because she could be in shock. I don't know. But I think that mother instinct... It usually does kick in and you're like, oh, fuck, I got to do this now.
As a mother, I fucking hate when people say that.
Right.
But, like, I feel like you would have to pry them. Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I would fucking freak out. I don't know that I would be able to provide any sort of care. I don't stay. I know you stay calm in those situations. Chris is very good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not as good. I'm like, oh, fuck no. Like, I need someone. I don't have experience.
Yeah. I don't know if it was my child. I could be
as calm as you are with like, other things.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at it. So I feel like I would probably just stand there and be like, oh, fuck.
Which is totally understandable as well, I think.
Yeah, but then the thing that is weird to me is like she didn't put towels over him, but she held a towel to the wound on her neck.
Oh. Yeah.
Like a rag or whatever.
Right.
Like a kitchen rag. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like...
if she had the wherewithal to do that.
To do it for you.
Yeah.
Like, I feel pretty confident enough where, like, if it were me, I would be like, I don't fucking care about what's happening to me right now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I have cut my arm pretty bad. I don't know if I told you that story.
Yes, you have.
So it was open. I could see the muscle, like, inside. I called the 911 and I was like, I cut my arm. You know, like, I was in shock. I was drunk. I was in shock. But I went directly to my towels and I was like, I had already applied pressure. She's like, okay, you need to apply pressure. I'm like, yeah.
So like, also, some things are kind of automatic.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was wasted, and I was in shock, because when they got there, they were like, wow, you're, like, you are in shock right now. But, like, I knew right away what to do. So, and it was, like, instant. I don't know. Yeah, so, I have a hard time. I have a hard time with all of the information here, but I'm just going to keep... That's a rough one,
keep trucking along. So that's kind of what happens. That's like the entire crime, you know. The EMS arrives and there's nothing they can do. They take Damon to the hospital where he's pronounced dead shortly after arriving. I think the EMTs even said like there was no signs of life like in the ambulance.
Right.
So then the other side is kind of like, on the 911 call, she's saying, like, my babies are dead. So, like, maybe in her mind, she already thought they were dead, you know? And, like...
Which is totally understandable, again, to think that.
Yeah.
If you're staring at your kids, you know, like, that's I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. Also, I find it really strange that there was never any investigation or suspicion of Darren, the husband. It was always focused directly on Darlie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Well, because she was there.
But she's also, like, so she also got attacked.
Right. That's true.
So to me, it's so crazy that, like, they went to... She had self-inflicted wounds rather than, like, maybe the husband tried this. You know, I don't...
Well, there must not have been any blood. Oh, but I don't know.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
So I think, like, a lot of the case after is just, like, the police had tunnel vision. And I watched countless interviews with the prosecutors and, you know, the investigators on the case. And they still, to this day, like this, people still talk about this because she's still on death row.
Sure.
As of October November 2023. And so, like, it still gets brought up fairly regularly, especially with, like, people. There's a lot of people who are looking into, like, maybe she's innocent now.
Yeah.
The prosecutor was like, yeah, they keep saying this, but I'm waiting for any sort of evidence.
Right.
Like, they've brought nothing. So, anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Darlie herself is also very injured, like I just briefly mentioned. She has her throat sliced.
Pretty deeply.
The media, like, creates this narrative that, like, she had superficial wounds, which, when you look deeper, like, she didn't have superficial wounds. She gets transported to the hospital and she goes to surgery it's like an hour-long surgery. So it's not crazy.
Yeah.
But they find that there's like a nick of her jugular, femoral artery, whatever one's in the carotid artery.
Yeah.
It's nicked, but like millimeters of movement, she would have bled out.
Right. Which is pretty convincing towards she didn't do it.
Yeah, and like she was also wearing like her necklace at the time, and like so the necklace was cut, and they're like, don't you think she would like take off the jewelry before doing it?
Yeah.
She also had like a cut on her arm that was pretty deep and needed stitches. She had like really intense bruising, which the police said she did to herself after leaving the hospital, because no one in the hospital mentioned that she had bruising on her arm.
Okay.
Yeah. But I watched I watched a person who broke down all of the evidence for like maybe she's innocent, and there's a photo of her in the hospital. It's not great quality because it's 1996, so like what do you expect? But they like adjust the contrast on it or something, so that's the only modification they made on it. And you can clearly see like deep a deep bruise, and then it gets much worse over time, which is like kind of what bruises do. So it was very strange that the police were like, no, you didn't have it's like a very big bruise. Like it's like her whole arm, but like they were saying like it's defensive, you know?
Right.
There's a crime scene investigator who's on this case, and before he says in court, before there's like any blood like splatter analysis done or like anything like that, he says there's not evidence that anyone broke into this house.
Right.
Like he made that that determination in the first 20 minutes of being in the house.
Yeah.
So then everything isn't to like innocent until proven guilty. It's like guilty until proven innocent, you know? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and I mean, homie dude ran out of the house, so who knows if the door was locked or not? Like, maybe the guy just walked through the front door. You know what I mean? Like, I know there was a slit in the... But, like, well, maybe the guy just fucking walked in, and then the guy ran out of the house, and now we'll never know if it was locked or not.
So listen to this. Well, so she says that she chased him to the garage.
Okay.
Like, not the front door.
Oh, okay.
That's her story. There's, like, a utility room between, like, their kitchen, which was, like, their laundry room, and then there was the garage.
Okay.
And so she says that she chased through there.
But I thought her husband was running out.
He was out front. Correct.
The front door, or?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he went out the front door. So did he unlock the door before he went out, or did he just swing the door open?
Yeah, but there was no knife.
Oh,
because the knife was dropped in the utility room.
Okay.
Where she picked it up and
That's right.
Away all the fingerprints.
Yep.
So let's talk about the screen. I didn't even mention the screen.
Sorry.
So there's a screen, and no, thank you. There's a screen in the garage, which is where it's like sliced. And the defense says that it was sliced by a bread knife that was in the knife block of the Routier home.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So the logic there is like...
bread knife?
How do you slice... First off, why would you use two separate knives?
Right.
But also, how do you get in and then slice that and put it back?
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. But the counter to that is they never actually tested what the fibers were. Like, the actual makeup of the fibers, were they the same as the screen? Because they also were very similar to, like, the fibers on the brush for the fingertip.
Okay.
Testing, but, like, no actual testing on, like, the makeup of those was done.
Huh. Sweet.
Yeah. And the person who was doing that, who was the expert witness on those fibers in court, was not, like, trained to be an expert witness for that type of forensic science.
Right. So that didn't go well.
Correct. So, yeah. So it's like, there's no evidence of anyone outside, though. Like, the window's very easy to get through it. It's like a ground level window. So you could walk through it easily, but you would expect, right, that there would be some sort of disturbance to, like, mulch or something outside, right? Yeah. There would be something.
Right.
But there's also a chance there could be nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then we got to talk about the sock.
Yep.
There's a sock found about 70 yards away from the house. There was, like, an alleyway behind the house. And it's found in this alleyway behind the house. And the DNA on the sock is Darlie's, Damon's, and Devin's. And that's it.
Yep. And it's got blood on it, too, right? Yeah.
So, like, well, what's the sock doing there?
Right.
But then that makes me wonder, like, was the sock covering someone's hand? Like, did someone do this without a glove on?
No.
I mean, I don't know how you get enough traction to, like, slice and stab people. But,
yeah, I
like,
don't know. I mean, or maybe he was wearing gloves and dropped the socks, so there wouldn't be any of his DNA on there anyway. Right?
Correct. But, like, why would you carry a sock?
I don't know. Maybe, like, in the struggle of things, they...
Yeah.
I don't know. That's weird. But then, like, her timing of the phone call and everything was, like, there was not really enough time for her to run out there, plant a sock, run back.
Isn't the thought you, like... I think the logic there is that you set it all up before you make that phone call, right?
Right.
And then they're looking at other things as well. Like, they pick these, like, really interesting things. Like, there's a knocked over vacuum and, like, a broken wine glass in between. There's, like, a bar area because all the kitchens in Texas, or all the living rooms in Texas have bars. So there's, like, a bar area where a wine glass is broken. And the investigators and the defense and the prosecutors, they all say, like, this is all staged because her blood is not underneath those items; it's above them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But the thought process that someone, like, for her innocence, is that it's above because she, like, wasn't bleeding as much. I'm trying to remember exactly what they were saying. Like, her blood pressure was low while she was laying down and, like, sleeping. And then when she got up and started moving around, her blood pressure, like, increased, which caused more blood to come out of her wounds.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Why it would be above and not below, because, like, when she went around it.
Right.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get it. Sure.
But I'm also like,
yeah. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
and then weren't there bloody footprints in there?
So,
like, without, or, like, footprints, not shoe prints.
I don't know that there was bloody.
That might be some
I'm not going to say...
It could be another case that
I'm not going to say there wasn't, but I did see something that there was a bloody, like, shoe print
maybe that's
in the garage, but it was the police.
Oh, okay.
They compromised the crime scene. Also, there was a hair in the window, which they were like, this is Darlie's hair, but it ended up being a police officer's hair.
Seriously? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Darlie is hospitalized. She gets out of the hospital, and a few days after she gets out of the hospital, it is one of the boys' birthday. I believe it's Devin's birthday. And they have a service, a birthday party.
Birthday party. It's a party. They were having a birthday party. Which I don't think, I mean, again, this is something that, like, she wanted to do for her son. Like, it was his birthday. Like,
she didn't even bring the silly string. She didn't bring, her sister brought the silly string.
Oh.
So, there's tons of videos, but, like, this is a huge part of what gets her convicted, really.
Right.
Is this video. It is a few minute video of them having a birthday party for the boys at their gravesite, where they are laughing.
Yeah.
She's spraying silly putty all over their graves.
She's skipping around and
she seems fairly jovial.
She does.
I'm not going to tell anyone, like, how to grieve and how to process. I'm going to say that the detective working the case, because the police were looking for all evidence. Right. They had not arrested her yet. They didn't get a warrant to put, like, a bug on the gravestones, but they got permission from the cemetery owner to do it.
Okay.
So they did bug the gravestones.
Oh, okay.
And allegedly, I didn't listen to the actual audio. The audio from there is literally all you hear is, like, sobbing and a family crying and grieving the loss.
Yeah.
But, like, that's never mentioned in court. So,
yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
The other thing that I wanted to mention too was, like, during the trial, her doctors and nurses that cared for her while she was in the hospital, they say, like, she wasn't, like, didn't seem fairly upset, wasn't great, like, wasn't really grieving in the hospital. But when you look at their actual, like, chart notes for her emotional, like, status, there's multiple notes of her being inconsolable, sobbing. So it's like, are you committing perjury?
Right.
Or, like...
Or she's thinking she got caught, so she's scared or sad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know why they would come out and say that then. If they have in their notes one thing and they're saying something else, the doctors.
Weird, right?
Yeah, that's weird.
It was like her medical providers. And the person was the person who was making this case, and I'll link it's a 3.5 hour long video, so enjoy. They were trying to say that the prosecutor had shown them the video of her out of the hospital on the grave. Right. With the silly string, and this was before they went to the witness stand, and then they changed their story,
right?
Where, like, she wasn't a grieving mother,
right? Okay.
So,
and then do we know why the dad wasn't really looked into, or, like, was he just eliminated right away, or?
There's nothing I could find about, like, him ever being a suspect. And he had similar behavior after. You know, like, he's at the gravestone too. He was doing news, you know, videos, following it. I don't know. It's, it to me, it's really strange that they didn't look into him.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of want to talk a little bit about the prosecutor's case and how they say it's, like, financially motivated. So the boys had life insurance policies on them, each in the amount of $5,000. And so the entire case is built on the fact that the Routiers were living above their means. Darren's business, I thought I just said the wrong name. No, his name's Darren. Yeah. There's too many D's. Yeah. I got really confused. So they say like Darren's business isn't doing as well this year. And he, you know, like there's financial pressure. Their credit cards are late. They were 2 months behind on their mortgage payment. So they sort of frame this to be like a very, like they're looking for cause. Right. You know?
And if it's 5,000 each, that is not.
The funerals ended up costing that much.
Yeah, I was going to say the funeral and the casket and all that cost way more than that. So like, no.
And so that was like a big part of like, you know, they're looking for motive. That was a huge part of it. And the person who made the video about like countering these pieces of evidence, they did a comparison with like how much he made the year prior. So in 1995, his business had, you know, like his income tax amount was like $284,000 for the year. And by June of 1996, he was at like $111,000. So it really wasn't like that far off. Yeah. And they also stated that he had like $20,000 in like AR to collect, you know, from people. Right. So like they really,
and especially in 96, if you make over 100,000, I think you're doing okay. Yeah. Like back in 96.
Yeah, but they even said how much it was adjusted for inflation. So like what it would be today, it was like $500,000 or something.
So like you're still gonna be fine if you have a bad year. You know.
Well, so then it's also like they were behind on their house. They had like a house payment. Right. They were a month behind on their house payment. But like that's not really going to like foreclosure land. No. You know, like that's it's like what?
No, that's not like, oh my God, I need to kill both my boys and get the life insurance policy that I'm gonna pay their funerals with. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, and so then it's like, what is the motive for some random person to break in their house and kill them and take no valuables? Like, all of her jewelry was in the living room for some strange reason, which she also mentions to the cop at one point. And it's like, why would you?
Yeah, that's weird.
They didn't even take my prized possession. Like, it was a very strange. So that's weird, right?
Yeah, that is weird.
It's like these, like, I don't know. As I was watching stuff, I'm like, okay, like, I don't think she did it. And then I would watch something else. I'm like, fuck, maybe you did.
Yeah.
She did do it.
I can't tell.
I felt like I couldn't tell when I spent 3.5 hours watching, like, the counter video. And then I watched a video, which again, I will link on YouTube, of a panelist of 4 people who look at the behavior. They're like behavior analysis, basically.
The movie video I was looking for, but I didn't see that one.
I'll link it.
Okay.
So they're looking for very subtle things, you know, like, and they have their entire careers are based on this. Right. So like, I can't tell you what the credentials of the person who made the video, like, countering all of the evidence, you know, to, like, plead her innocence. Because I couldn't find the person's name, which I thought was kind of weird. And they kept saying they were an attorney who had tried cases, but they had young kids, but they had been in the career for 30 years. And I'm like, that doesn't add up. Yeah. To me, like, I don't know, maybe you could. Right. It was I was like, am I getting fucking, like, what is this? So I'll link both of them, and like anyone can make those decisions. But there was I could not find a person's name. Yeah. They had a Patreon. I could not find their name.
Really?
Yeah. So I couldn't verify the claims they were making about like the things that they did when they were practicing law and the cases that their law firm was taking. Like,
okay. Yeah, that's weird.
It seemed very strange to me.
That's weird.
Whereas the panelists of the 4, like, it's their names. Mm-hmm. They say exactly what experience they have. Mm-hmm. So it felt more credible to me.
Yeah. And they know what they're doing, too.
And they really, really broke down this interview to the point where they were like, she has psychopathic tendencies. Mm-hmm. Like, not every narcissist is a psychopath, but every psychopath's a narcissist, is what they said.
Yeah.
And so, like, she was crying, and they were like, she has the wrinkles of her forehead where you can see that it's true grief. But then you see her clock the camera and smile. And it was very, very eerie.
Yeah, that's not, I didn't see that.
They also discuss, like, she says during her interview, like, I didn't do this. Which, okay, fine.
Right.
But then she never says, like, I'm innocent. She says, a normal mother wouldn't do this.
Okay.
A normal woman wouldn't do this.
Right.
Like, very tuned in on, like, the word normal and being normal. And, like, a mother wouldn't do this. But, like, never, I didn't do this. Yeah. It was, like, a mother. Like, projecting into this thing that, like, she couldn't realize. It was very interesting.
No, that's a good one. If you're not saying I and you're just generalizing it, there's an issue there.
Yeah, and like they're way smarter about it.
Right.
They explained it way better than I just did. But it was very, very interesting.
But like I would be like, I didn't do this. You need to go find out who the fuck did this. Why are you sitting here looking at me?
That's even part of it. Like in this interview, she says something about like, and they basically say the same thing because she's like, I would need help. Like I would think that person would need help. I don't remember exactly, but it was like very weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
It felt like I was telling you offline, like it feels very like performative when I see her speaking. Like I watched another Jailhouse interview with her from 15 years after her sentencing or whatever, and just everything feels. I don't know. It feels very disingenuous to me. Like. I don't get the sense that she's being authentic or like genuine. And that's just like how I feel about her as a person.
Right.
And like, I don't know if this is just because for so many years, I've like consumed that she's guilty. And then I watched this one thing that was like, maybe she's innocent. I was like, well, fuck, maybe. You know, like it's not the first time they put someone, you know, behind bars who's not guilty.
Yeah.
There was even talk of like, a man who was put to death, and there was DNA evidence that they never tested, and they tested it, and it was not him.
Oh my god! Yeah.
So, but that's the other thing too. They found no DNA evidence in the house, that did not belong to someone who knew them or was them.
And one of the videos I watched, the lady was like, "How do you feel about like you're never going to see your son again because they can't have people visit them on death row?" I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, so like family can't go and visit them on death row. So the reporter's like, "How do you feel about like you're probably never going to touch your son again?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm never going to touch him again." Like repeating what. Like almost monotone and like, oh, yeah, you're right. Sure.
It's
wink, wink. Like, I don't, like that's a little weird. Like I probably would have broken down and been like, fuck. Like if you can imagine just like knowing that you're never going to touch your child again.
Yeah.
Like that would be hard for me.
I think that would be hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. It didn't look sincere.
It doesn't look sincere. I'm telling you, like, and I don't know, like, is it media savviness, like knowing people are going to nitpick? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel genuine to me. And that's the other thing too. I don't know. I feel like if something horrific happened to my family, like something so traumatic, I would not talk to anyone. You would not see me on the news.
No.
You would not see me talking to fucking anyone.
No.
I would become such a hermit. And I'm not saying she needs to be.
No.
I'm saying that's what I would do.
I would probably do that too.
An absolute, total, 100% shutdown.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching news clips from the time, and it was just them talking. It wasn't like, we've got to get out there and we've got to find who did this. Like, it was just talking.
Right.
And that to me was weird. I was like, this doesn't feel right.
Right.
You know, like, it wasn't like my attorney's going to tell you, like, we need space, but we got to get this
Right.
It was just attention seeking.
Yeah.
Like, the narcissist finally got all the attention they wanted,
right?
You know, and like clung to it,
right?
And is continuing to cling to it.
Did she have a postpartum depression?
So they say she did. I don't know it was diagnosed.
Okay.
They also talk about like how she had postpartum depression and she was sad because she hadn't lost the baby weight and like she didn't look like she used to look, and her appearance was very important to her, which like I get.
Yeah.
And so she was taking a diet pill that you can no longer buy, fen-phen.
Yes.
Which is allegedly supposed to have a ton of side effects, like neurological sort of side effects. Again, the fucking video countering this, like, went into this huge diatribe about, like, their law firm and all these cases they did. But again, I could not confirm any of that because I don't know this person's name.
Right.
So I can look up what law firm they said they worked at to, like, see if they were the ones who actually filed a lawsuit against fen-phen. Like,
right.
I couldn't look any of that up. But essentially what they were saying was that the manufacturers of fen-phen put it on the market knowing that it had, like, these neurological side effects where, like, it was, like, memory loss and amnesia and, like, those kinds of things, which I was not aware that was that. I thought it was more, like, cardiac sort of stuff that, like, it caused your heart to beat. Like, it was, like, meth-like.
Yeah. Yeah, memory loss doesn't really seem like it would fit for a weight loss pill. I don't know. That doesn't make sense.
But truthfully, I didn't spend a ton of time looking into it. And, like, I didn't find that section of the video to feel very credible to me.
Okay.
That's just me.
Yeah.
That's not everyone. But, like...
So there's still no motive for her to do it.
Well, so the prosecutor's motive is money, financial gain. But I do want to mention one other thing. She had written, like, a suicide note in her diary some months, weeks prior to this. They didn't say the exact date, so I don't know. But all 3 kids were alive because it had all 3 of their names on it, where she's saying, like, I'm sorry. I hope you guys can forgive me. So I'm thinking there was some sort of maybe PPD, postpartum depression happening.
Yeah. There's no other DNA from anybody that wasn't supposed to be in the house. That's the big. Or was it because it was in '96 and they didn't collect it? No. Okay.
There was.
They
you
got
could
that.
fully test.
Okay.
Yeah. There was like a thumbprint or a fingerprint, but it was like too smudged to accurately do like fingerprint analysis on. And it was like in blood on a wall or something.
Okay.
But like,
yeah, that's rough.
I mean, it's super rough, but like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know because it feels unfair that there's jurors, I hate that word, who have said like, if I had seen the entire footage from the cemetery and not just that clip, I wouldn't have been able to convict her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to say she was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So, like, that to me seems like she should get another trial.
Yeah.
There's also so much I can talk about her attorneys. So, like, they hired a, like, very fancy defense attorney where they paid $90,000 retainer. Yeah. So, like, something tells me you weren't hurting for money that much if you have $90,000 to, like, throw out.
Right.
So they paid for him, but he only had 9 weeks or something to, like, prepare for the trial because she had fired her other attorney.
Okay.
Like her court-appointed, you know, DA.
Yep.
And so a lot of people were saying that, like, that was negligent because they needed so much more time in discovery and they needed to have so much more time to, like, present evidence. And so people were saying, like, had they been able to really build, like, a true defense, it would have been better. But, like, the only defense I saw was, like, she didn't do it. Like, there wasn't, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you would think for $90,000 retainer, like.
Yeah, and you're only getting $10,000 from your life insurance. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. That's why, like, the motive doesn't make any sense. But also the motive of some random stranger to come in and not steal anything and just kill, you know, 2 kids and this lady. Like, that also doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So, like, where is the sense, you know?
Are you going to talk about the husband and his scheme?
Oh,
or is that?
I mean, I'll say it. I don't know, like,
if it's okay.
I'm not sure if it's, like, 100% true, but someone in one of the things I watched, I can't even remember which one at this point, they mentioned that Darren had been maybe joking, but had mentioned a few times, like, oh, you know, like, you should come and rob my house so we can, like, commit insurance fraud. And so the thought was that was happening.
Right.
But the kids were sleeping downstairs and they didn't know and, like, freaked out.
Yeah. Because that's like I mean, someone could have made that up, but, like, when you think about it, you're like, maybe that actually happened. I don't know. Like,
I've seen enough forensic files where that does happen. Yeah. You know, like, they tried to set up, like, a car accident or whatever. Yeah. Like, it happens regularly.
Yeah, I'm sure it
does.
Like,
well, and Darren had a life insurance policy on Darlie in the amount of $250,000. So that's a considerable amount of money. That's not chump change.
Right. That, I mean, now yeah. Especially, yeah.
Not enough. But.
No. But still, let it make your problems go away. And then you're, like, out 3 people that you don't have to feed anymore. So.
I don't know why they didn't spend more time looking at Darren. Yeah. I can't answer that. I'm not sure. But, like, that seems like the only motive to me.
Right. Did he get paid that? Do you know?
No, because she lived.
Oh, yeah, she lived. Okay.
I'm going to cough. I'm so sorry. So, no, that didn't get paid out.
Yeah.
And what else did I want to talk about? I think so many. What were we talking about? Well, and then to me, when I thought about that, I was like, maybe that's why all of her jewelry was in the front room.
Yeah, that's another weird one for me.
Like,
why would you keep your jewelry in the front room?
And not, like, in a jewelry box placed
just there,
and, like, laying loosely.
So your kids are 4 and 5, and they're going to run around and they're going to grab your jewelry and 5 and 6 and break it and do. I mean, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I was like, that just feels like I saw, like, a picture of it, and it's like many rings, like bracelets, necklace.
Yeah,
but she's wearing a necklace still.
Right.
And, like, it's a lot of jewelry. I'm like, is that the amount of jewelry you wore in one day?
Right.
So. There's some other, like, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. So the one other thing I do want to talk about is that there was, like, a woman that Darlie had hired. It was the mother of someone who worked at the business. And she had hired her to, like, help with laundry. Also, like, that's a lot of kids. 3 kids is a lot of kids.
It's a lot of kids.
I feel you on the laundry.
Yeah.
So she had her come over, like, twice to help, like, wash the laundry, fold the laundry, and, like, do some other cleaning around the house.
Yeah.
So the second time that this woman came over was the day before the incident.
Okay.
So that happened in the middle of the night of June 6th. So, like, this was June 5th.
Okay.
So hours before, essentially.
Yeah.
She gets there and she testifies. It was very confusing reading because she, like, had a translator who was answering things in Polish, but then, like, sometimes she would answer them in English, and then, like, the court would yell at her and tell her to stop. It was like, I was like, oh my God, this is very confusing. We have to answer in Polish. This is how we're doing it. It was very strange.
Yeah.
Anyways, so she testifies that when she arrived, essentially she's alluding to, and the prosecutor is stating that she was trying to strangle baby Drake, basically, like suffocate him with a blanket with their 12-year-old babysitter who lived across the street sitting next to her. That's what she's, like, alluding to. But then I also read the 12-year-old babysitter's testimony where she says that baby Drake liked to sleep, like, with his head covered by a blanket. Not, like, his face, but the top of his head. And that he was laying on the floor, like, with a blanket.
Yeah. Just
covering his head. And, like, the lady sort of freaked out about it.
Right.
And so that was a very interesting thing to read. But more of the Polish lady, she also went on to say that, like, at the funeral, she went up to her and was like, oh, this must be a very expensive funeral.
What?
Yes. And her defense attorney was like, so you comforted her by saying how expensive the funeral would be?
Yikes. Yeah.
Because she was trying to say that she was trying to, like, paint Darlie in this very negative light. And she was trying to say that at the funeral, Darlie was like, oh, it's okay. Like, this isn't going to be that expensive because we're getting $10,000 from her life insurance policies.
Okay.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Also, like, who does that?
Yeah. No.
And so they had all these people who, like, tried to frame her as, like, this really bad mom where, like, she would let her kids go out and, like, run around outside. And I'm like, who didn't? It was 1996.
Right.
Like,
yeah. We were all outside running around.
If that's the definition of a bad mom.
Everyone in the 90s that was a bad mom.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk to my mom, who allowed me and my brother to go on 5-mile hikes by ourselves during summer. Like,
I didn't do that, but we were gone. Like, we had to be home when it got dark out.
Yeah,
like,
when the street lights came on.
And we didn't have a cell phone or anything like that. Like, we were just gone.
It was a different... Yeah. So, I mean, but these are people in that day and age who were like, she was... Like, they just really tried to focus on her being, like, a negligent parent.
Right.
But, like, I couldn't find any evidence of that being accurate.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's a weird one.
And it's a horrific crime. Like, it's... The details of what happened to those boys is... Yeah. It's very upsetting. And, like, I
feel like stabbing is, like, a personal...
It's extremely personal.
So, like, that takes effort, you know? Like, versus just, like, if someone was trying to rob them... like with a gun. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to make it like, but
criminals are fucking criminals, you know? Like, you think of all these ones we've done and talked about. Like, remember I always think of the fucking Wichita Massacre people. Like, those people didn't have to do any of the shit they did.
Right.
And they just chose to do it. Like, trying to understand why is impossible because my brain doesn't function that way.
Right.
Like, I will never understand why. Whether or not it was Darlie who did this, I mean, she's on death row for it. But, like, I'll never understand the actions of whoever did it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's her because that's what the court said. But, like, anyone can make their own opinion. There are people who feel that she did not. There are people who feel she did. The shittiest part to me is that, like, there's not even justice for Damon.
No, I don't like that either. She didn't get
tried for his murder. She only got tried for Devin.
Yeah.
She only got tried for Damon's murder because he was 5 and not 6 yet, so they could do it as a death penalty case. And I'm like, that feels real fucking shitty.
But, like, if the other one was included too, that doesn't change the fact that guy was 5.
Well, so one of the interviews I watched, they say, so even if you get out, they can try you again for Damon.
Right.
So, like,
but if she's on death row for the one, then she's not getting out, obviously.
Well, I mean, she's been appealing it for the last however many years.
Well, everybody appeals it.
Well, it's 2023.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
You know? But, like, she's also never been granted a retrial.
Right.
Like, some people say that she should get a mistrial for the way that her attorneys handled her case.
Yeah.
And
the fact that she was stabbed, like, in the neck so close to bleeding out, but she didn't. Like, that's just... Or unless it's like she killed them and then she was like, oh, fuck. She snapped back into reality and was like, what the fuck did I just do? And she tried to kill herself. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, and so that's the other thing. Like, she says in the one where they are analyzing, like, her body language and stuff, she's like, if I did it.
She may have had, like,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Which they were saying is the hardest thing for anyone.
Yeah.
You know, like an interrogator or an investigator, because, like, you can't tell someone, like, no, you do remember.
Right.
You know, like,
some people don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's either amnesia or it's nothing.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's really hard for them to work with as, like, an investigator. Honestly, it was really fascinating to, like, take a deeper dive into this. And I implore everyone to look into it more because, like,
it's very interesting.
It really has to open up, like, what if you had to sit on, like, a case like this as a juror, you know? Like, how do you stay? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was very, very, this week was a fun week for me. Last few weeks, actually.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
That was a good one.
I'm not gonna, again, like, I'm not gonna go into the graphic details of it. It's not worth it. It's not necessary to talk about what I wanted to talk about, which is, like, all of this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at
The Murder Mamas,
Facebook,
The M Mamas,
Twitter,
The Murder Mamas,
email,
themurdermamas@gmail.com.
And if you like us and are happy with our content, please leave us a review and a 5-star rating. We would appreciate it. Bye.